When it comes to a death toll, it's incredibly difficult, 24, 48 hours to get an accurate number. Unfortunately, I think you're going to see that number climb. I hope we don't see it climb dramatically, but I have, reasons to believe that, we still haven't gotten into some of the hardest hit areas, particularly the Mexico Beach area. And as I've been saying, anybody that, doesn't heed a warning to evacuate, particularly the coast, we ask them to do so because of the ocean rising and storm surge pushing buildings down. It's not the wind blowing them apart. It's the ocean and crashing waves going in. And very few people live to tell what it's like to experience storm surge. And unfortunately, in this country, we seem to not learn the lesson. In 1969, over 271 people were killed from Hurricane Camille, and it was because the ocean rose and basically swallowed them up. And then again, we learned it in Katrina. And while the world was focused on New Orleans, and rightfully so for the issues that were there, another 270 people lost their lives because the ocean rose 29 feet and had wave action on top of it. And the reason you don't hear about those 270 people is because they're not around to give an interview after the fact. We want people to understand how these storms attack communities. They're classified by winds, but storm surge causes the most amount of loss of life, and it causes the most amount of destruction, and you're witnessing it in Mexico Beach, and I hope that the country won't forget it. And that when you go back to rebuild these areas, that you do so in a resilient fashion, that we don't rebuild to the same standards, that we have locals and state governments start to implement real building codes across this country. It's frustrating to us because we repeat this cycle over and over again. But if you want to live in these areas, you got to do it in a more resilient fashion. You've got to mitigate your homes. You've got to understand why we ask you to evacuate. And every day we've got to figure out how to make this country more financially resilient. A lot of people can't put their hands on $500. Therefore, they're not properly insured. They're not spending the money to mitigate, or they're moving to areas where they've never experienced a Category 4 storm. And very few people have ever experienced a Cat 4, Cat 5 storm. I mean, we've only had 3 Cat 5s hit since 1851. Labor Day storm of 35, Andrew in 92, and Camille in 69. So, people often behave based on their past experience. But when these things happen, we learn, and what I'm afraid of is hurricane amnesia. 10 years is going to go by, and we're going to forget what happened in Mexico Beach. So how do we build a culture of preparedness? FEMA tries to do it every year, but a lot of people don't pay attention to anything that we do or say when it's a blue sky day and nothing's happening. People only focus the camera on us after big events like this. And that's the frustrating part of being FEMA administrator, or the people that dedicate their lives to trying to get people to understand these hazards. So you guys help me. How do we learn from this and move forward in a more resilient fashion and stop the vicious cycle of damage and destruction, time and time again?
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.